Welcome to Dust History. You're watching your wives being escorted away by the most powerful man on earth. You cannot move. You cannot speak. Surrounding you, 50 other senators sit paralyzed, their wine cups shaking in their grasp. Some hope she'll come back. You hope she won't reveal anything that condemns you both to death. 20 minutes feel like 20 years. When he eventually returns her to the banquet, he doesn't simply place her back at your side. He takes a seat. He fills his own cup with wine. And then, before everyone you know, he starts recounting in explicit, methodical detail precisely what transpired in that chamber. Your fellow senators are studying their plates. Your wife gazes at emptiness. And you must grin. You must agree. You must express gratitude because the other option is witnessing your children's execution. This wasn't insanity. This was machinery, a system engineered with clinical precision to annihilate the human spirit. And the architect learned his craft by witnessing his entire family's murder at the hands of the prior emperor. His name was Caligula, and his actions against Rome are so profoundly disturbing, so deliberately wicked, that 2 millennia later we're still attempting to comprehend how a single individual could design this magnitude of psychological devastation. If you think that documented accounts of history's most frightening figures deserve remembrance, please consider liking this video and subscribing. Now, returning to the man who transformed brutality into systematic art. Stay with me because what follows becomes increasingly worse. Far worse. And the most chilling aspect isn't his deeds, it's that the apparatus he constructed survived his death. Before revealing the 5 acts of Caligula's terror apparatus, you must grasp something essential. He wasn't born malevolent. He was engineered, and the manufacturing process began when he was 7 years old. Visualize this. The year is 14 AD. A young boy, perhaps 6 or 7, races through a Roman military encampment. He's dressed in a miniature legionnaire's uniform, equipped with small armor and tiny crimson boots. The soldiers, combat-hardened men who've subjugated half the known world, are chuckling, lifting him up, throwing him skyward. They name him Caligula, Little Boots. He's the offspring of Germanicus, Rome's most celebrated general since Julius Caesar himself. The soldiers revere his father, and they cherish this child. He's their emblem, their talisman. Wherever Germanicus travels, little Caligula accompanies him. And the troops genuinely believe this boy delivers them triumph. This child is maturing, thinking he's untouchable, beloved, safeguarded by Earth's mightiest army. He's oblivious to what approaches. 12 months later, his father perishes. The official account: abrupt sickness. The hushed account: toxin commissioned by someone near the emperor. Perhaps the emperor personally. Caligula is 8 years old when the apparatus begins obliterating his family. His mother, Agrippina the Elder, seized from their residence, charged with sedition against the emperor. His eldest brother apprehended, incarcerated, starved until he attempted consuming the padding from his sleeping mat. His second brother banished to an island where sentries tortured him until he bashed his own skull against stone to finish it. Sequentially, they're eliminated, and young Caligula observes everything unfold. By the time he reaches 19, he's the final one remaining, the exclusive survivor of his complete lineage. And then arrives the command. Emperor Tiberius requests his presence. Capri, a stunning island beyond Italy's coast. Tiberius has converted it into his private stronghold. Distant from Rome, distant from the Senate, distant from anyone who might protest what occurs there. The ancient chroniclers were discussing Suetonius, Tacitus, individuals writing within living recollection of these occurrences. They portray Capri as a chamber of atrocities. Tiberius has grown suspicious, corrupted, encircling himself with fortune-tellers and sycophants, conceiving new barbarities because he's uninterested. And into this setting steps adolescent Caligula. He understands Tiberius slaughtered his family. Everyone understands it, but he cannot display it, cannot even suggest it. One improper glance, one instant of sorrow, one spark of fury, and he's deceased. So he doesn't merely survive, he thrives. Suetonius records something disturbing. There never existed a superior servant or an inferior master. Caligula masters burying everything human within himself. He observes. He analyzes. He becomes precisely what Tiberius desires: compliant, amusing, innocuous. For 6 years, he performs this character flawlessly. And then, in 37 AD, Tiberius expires. Some claim natural death. Others claim Caligula suffocated him with a cushion. Regardless, the 19-year-old captive is now Earth's most powerful individual. Rome rejoices. They believe they're receiving the son of cherished Germanicus. They're clueless. They've just elevated a man who invested 6 years discovering how to shatter human beings from Roman history's most terrible monster. And for 7 months, everything appears flawless. Caligula reduces taxes. He liberates political captives. He presents magnificent public entertainments. He enhances infrastructure, constructs aqueducts, renovates principal roadways, and compensates the legions. Rome treasures him. Women distribute flowers along his route. Children perform songs glorifying him. Senators, the identical men who would subsequently shudder hearing his footfalls, compete for instance of his regard. It seems like Rome's prosperous era has ultimately materialized after years imprisoned under Tiberius's terror-driven governance. Where Tiberius segregated himself on Capri, Caligula strolls transparently among citizens, participates in public festivities, even consumes meals with senators. He seems reachable, magnanimous, nearly godlike in his acclaim. The populace genuinely trusts the deities have ultimately bestowed them the perfect sovereign. Then he becomes ill. In autumn of 37 AD, a puzzling sickness strikes him unconscious. He endures weeks approaching death's edge. Court physicians record fevers more scorching than they considered a human could withstand. Savage seizures demanding numerous men to restrain him motionless. Frenzied periods where he insists he's conversing directly with Jupiter himself. Rome is immobilized with dread. Priests sacrifice ceaselessly to the deities. Certain citizens pledge their own existences if it signifies rescuing the emperor. And when he ultimately unseals his eyes, something essential within him has transformed. The initial indication is nearly inconspicuous. He orders that every sculpture of every deity in Rome should possess its head substituted with his own representation. Following that, the transformation becomes undeniable to disregard. His eyes, which were previously animated and cordial, become vacant and predatory, the pupils abnormally dilated. He cultivates relentless sleeplessness, roaming the palace throughout the darkness, murmuring to sculptures, addressing the moon, replying to invisible adversaries. Attendants frequently discover him at sunrise, unclothed in the palace courtyards, blanketed in earth, asserting he's been cultivating Rome's fate. But what he's cultivating isn't a destiny. It's the groundwork for something considerably bleaker. What I'm preparing to portray isn't arbitrary violence. It's not the actions of a lunatic. Caligula constructed a system: 5 separate acts of psychological combat, each one engineered to devastate a distinct component of the human essence. And the genuinely frightening aspect is how calculated it was. Let me display you the design. Caligula possessed 3 sisters, Drusilla, Julia Livilla, and Agrippina the Younger. But one, Drusilla, was distinct. Ancient sources suggest their connection traversed boundaries that even Rome discovered troubling. Whether the allegations of incest were accurate or propaganda, what's significant is that everyone accepted it. And Caligula didn't merely permit the allegations, he promoted them. He designated her his Diana. He regarded her as if she were his empress in public occasions, positioning her in locations preserved exclusively for imperial spouses. Then, in 38 AD, Drusilla perished. What transpired subsequently exposes the nucleus of Caligula's system, seizing his personal anguish and compelling an entire empire to undergo it. He doesn't simply lament, he militarizes lamentation. Initially, he has the Senate pronounce Drusilla a goddess. Not metaphorically, formally. There are presently temples to his deceased sister where Romans are mandated to venerate. Then he announces a duration of mourning. And here's where it transforms monstrous. It is presently a capital offense to laugh. It is presently a capital offense to bathe. It is presently a capital offense to dine with your family. Comprehend that again. For weeks, possibly months, if you're apprehended grinning, you can be executed. Envision existing like that. Your child utters a jest at breakfast. Do you chuckle? Do you reprimand them for being a child? Every instant of happiness transforms into a potential death verdict. He's compelling Rome to experience his suffering, whether they desire to or not. He's discovering he can mandate emotion, outlaw contentment, render his internal reality everyone's actuality. And once he comprehends he can dominate how individuals experience, he begins testing what else he can extract from them. This subsequent portion is so unsettling that historians still argue whether it genuinely occurred or was subsequent propaganda. But here's what the ancient sources assert. Caligula establishes what he demands on naming the Temple of Divine Service inside the Imperial Palace. Not for himself, for the public, as an enterprise, and it's not operated by common prostitutes. It's operated by the sons and daughters of Rome's aristocratic families, the nobility, the senators, the individuals who govern provinces and direct legions. He has announcers venture into the streets to declare the costs. Varying rates for wed women versus unwed. Exceptional rates for virgins from senatorial families. 16,000 sesterces for a night with a senator's spouse. 20,000 for his virgin daughter. 50,000 if he desires both simultaneously. And here's the element that renders it so particularly merciless. He allegedly maintains ledgers, comprehensive records, names, dates, transactions, the administrative documentation of human debasement. Consider what this accomplishes psychologically. If you're a Roman aristocrat, your complete identity is constructed on family distinction. Your ancestry extends back centuries. Your name signifies something. And now your daughter is being promoted in the streets like cattle. And there's a ledger containing her name in it. And you can accomplish absolutely nothing about it because the alternative is execution. The payments don't vanish into private accounts. They're recorded straight into the imperial treasury, disguised as voluntary donations for the state's benefit. He's not simply seizing their bodies. He's seizing the one element Roman aristocracy treasured more than existence itself. Their standing, their inheritance, their name. The palace itself is renovated to operate like this ceremonial apparatus. Each chamber possesses a designation and a purpose. There's the Chamber of Jupiter, utilized for the emperor's systematized abuses where he portrays himself as a living deity. There's the Hall of Venus, arranged for compulsory ceremonies compelling noble matrons into recreations of legendary scenes. There's even a corridor connected with Priapus, where acts of degradation are executed against those the emperor selects. Operating this apparatus demands an administration that competes with Rome's civil governance. Concealed clerks maintain meticulous registers in a sealed repository beneath the Palatine. Each file adheres to a template. Victim's designation, age, social position, physical depiction, acts executed, duration, degree of evident cooperation, resulting pregnancies, fees remitted. Hundreds of individuals become components in this apparatus. There are supervisors of decorum, custodians of ceremonial garments, official midwives, the scribes who compose the lists, sentries who implement the schedules, and accountants who reconcile the records. The distribution of accountability renders it simpler for individuals to evade moral possession. Nobody stands solitary as the monster. Everyone can assert they're merely completing a function. But he's still not finished. Because he comprehends something, public degradation is powerful. But there's something even more devastating, private degradation with public observers. Visualize this scene again because now you comprehend the context. You're at an imperial banquet. You're positioned with your spouse. Surrounding you are 50, possibly 100 other senators with their spouses. Everyone's consuming wine that tastes like terror. Caligula rises. Everyone becomes silent. He strolls gradually between the tables, examining the women. His eyes are analytical, appraising. He's selecting. He halts at your table. He gazes at your spouse. He scrutinizes her the manner you'd scrutinize a horse you're considering purchasing, verifying her teeth, her hair, the configuration of her body. He doesn't request authorization, doesn't even recognize you exist. He simply grasps her hand and escorts her away. You remain there. The man adjacent to you is staring into his wine. Everyone is pretending this isn't transpiring because everyone comprehends. If you rise, if you protest, if you display any emotion whatsoever, you won't depart this chamber alive. And neither will she, and neither will your children. So you remain, you consume, you wait. 20 minutes, 30. The conversation surrounding you is artificial, fragile. Someone creates a jest and it perishes in the atmosphere. Eventually, he returns her. She sits. She won't regard you. And then he sits too. He doesn't depart. He remains. And before everyone, your companions, your colleagues, your competitors, he commences describing what just transpired. In detail, clinical, explicit detail. He's evaluating her performance, contrasting her to other senators' spouses, creating jests. And you must grin. You must chuckle at his jests. You must agree like this is all perfectly normal, perfectly acceptable. He's not simply violating your spouse. He's annihilating you. Everything that renders you a man in Roman society, your capacity to safeguard your family, your authority, your dignity. He's seizing it before everyone who's significant. And tomorrow you must return. You must grin at these identical individuals. You must pretend it never transpired, while everyone comprehends precisely what transpired. This is the brilliance of the apparatus. He's not simply destroying individuals. He's destroying the social structure itself, rendering everyone complicit, rendering everyone an observer to everyone else's debasement. Certain evenings are systematized as spectacles. Full moons are optimal time. Caligula arranges what he designates lunar fertility ceremonies in a converted private amphitheater, transforming it into a staged pagan shrine. He organizes matches with carefully chosen participants, gladiators renowned for their potency, Nubian prisoners brought from the empire's boundaries, even animals occasionally, creatures like trained bears or Molossan mastiffs, and once, a leopard presented as a royal offering. Husbands occupy the galleries in their senatorial togas, compelled to preserve composure while their spouses are debased below them. The emperor coordinates every element like a circus master, determining pairings, quantities, duration, even body arrangement, utilizing a gilded baton crowned with phallic emblems to designate his selections. Scribes record everything: names, occurrences, timings. What unfolds is less disorder than a theater of supremacy, an establishment where human suffering is transformed into pageantry and then commodified. But we're only at Act 3. And what arrives next is so much worse that contemporary psychologists have examined it as a case analysis in systematic psychological torture. Because Caligula comprehends there's one bond even stronger than marriage, the bond between parent and child. This subsequent portion is nearly unbearable. If you require a pause, I comprehend. Caligula commences executing individuals, not for sedition, not for offenses, simply because he's uninterested or irritated, or because he desires to observe what transpires. And he cultivates a new protocol. If he's executing someone's son, the father must observe, not from a distance, proximate, front position. But here's what elevates it from simple brutality to systematic torture. The historian Suetonius records a specific incident that exposes the genuine horror. A father observes his son executed. Caligula then immediately has this man transported to the Imperial palace for dinner. That evening, the body is still warm. The father is positioned at Caligula's table, and Caligula observes him, simply observes, analyzing his face like he's administering an experiment. He's verifying to determine if the father will weep, if he'll display grief, any indication of suffering. Because if he does, if he displays any emotion whatsoever, Caligula will comprehend he hasn't shattered him completely, that there's still something human remaining to devastate. So the father remains there, consuming food he cannot taste, creating conversation he cannot hear, while his son's body cools somewhere in the city, and the man who commanded it killed is examining his facial expressions for amusement. He's not simply seizing your child. He's seizing your entitlement to lament. He's transforming the deepest human bond, parent and child, into a source of terror instead of comfort. Because now, if you cherish someone, that affection becomes a weapon against you. The more you care, the more vulnerable you are, the more he can damage you. He's rendering love itself hazardous. There's Senator Cornelius as another case illustration. When commanded to surrender his spouse Livia, he rises in the Senate and refuses. It's a public act of resistance, courageous, but fatal in its consequences. The subsequent morning, Cornelius's 8-year-old son is discovered on the Senate stairs, mutilated, living, bearing an unmistakable message carved into his flesh. The warning functions. That afternoon, Cornelius delivers Livia to the emperor. Months subsequently, when she conceives by imperial decree, Cornelius is compelled to acknowledge the child as his legitimate heir, abandoning any claims from his other offspring. Degradation is rendered law. The Senate votes unanimously that any child of the emperor, of whatever origin, outranks sons born in lawful marriages. And here's what nobody anticipated. The apparatus had a fatal defect. Because while Caligula was occupied destroying senators and aristocrats, individuals who were trained to accept degradation, who comprehended politics, who could rationalize their suffering as the cost of survival, he committed one essential mistake. He directed his casual, everyday brutality at the incorrect type of individual, the soldier. His designation was Cassius Chaerea, senior officer in the Praetorian Guard, the emperor's personal bodyguards. These are the elite, the men who stand inches from Caligula every single day, armed, trained, lethal. Chaerea possessed one physical characteristic that Caligula discovered endlessly entertaining: a high-pitched voice. And Caligula, true to character, couldn't abandon it. Every day, new jests, new ridicule. And here's the specific element that displays how casual his brutality had transformed. When it was Chaerea's turn to request the daily password, a military protocol, something accomplished before all the other centuries, Caligula would assign him passwords like Venus or Priapus, deliberately effeminate or sexual words that would render the other soldiers smirk. Day after day, week after week. For Caligula, it was disposable humor, barely worth recollecting. For Chaerea, every jest was a drop of toxin. Observe, Caligula had committed a calculation error. Senators could be degraded because they desired to exist. They possessed children, estates, inheritances worth safeguarding. They could rationalize survival. But Chaerea was a soldier, a man trained for violence. A man who stood adjacent to the emperor every single day with a blade on his hip. And Caligula had simply instructed him that existence under this emperor wasn't worth existing. Because Caligula had transformed so confident in his system, so certain that terror would always triumph, that he disregarded the most fundamental rule of predators. Never corner something that can eliminate you. What transpired next consumed less than 60 seconds. But it would alter the course of Roman history. And the aftermath exposes something even more unsettling than anything Caligula accomplished while he was alive. January 24th, 41 AD. Caligula is attending the theater. He's in a pleasant mood. He's been organizing games, performances. In a few hours, there's going to be a play. Around midday, he determines to depart through a narrow underground corridor, a passageway that connects the theater to the palace. It's dimly illuminated, claustrophobic, with rough stone walls on both sides. The conspirators are waiting. Chaerea advances forward as Caligula approaches. This is normal. Guards always verify with the emperor. He requests the day's password. And Caligula, completely unaware, totally secure in his invincibility, provides one final sneering, mocking response. It's the final thing he ever articulates. Chaerea screams, "Accept this," and propels his sword up under Caligula's ribs. Caligula stumbles, attempts to flee, but there's nowhere to travel. The corridor is too narrow. There are conspirators at both ends. They overwhelm him. 30 stab wounds, according to the sources. 30 times the blade penetrates. They don't cease until there's nothing remaining that could possibly be alive. For years of accumulated rage, degradation, and terror, released in 60 seconds of frenzied violence. The monster is deceased, and that's when it transforms worse. The conspirators don't cease with Caligula. They locate his spouse, Caesonia. She comprehends what's transpired. She can hear the screaming. She's begging, pleading, attempting to reason with armed men who've just eliminated an emperor. They stab her to death. Then they locate the nursery. Caligula's daughter, Julia Drusilla, is 2 years old, possibly 3. The sources disagree. A soldier lifts her up, and while she's weeping for her mother, he swings her headfirst into a marble wall. They must ensure there's no heir, no one who could mature and pursue vengeance. So they eliminate a toddler. This is what transpires when the apparatus shatters. It doesn't simply cease. It consumes everything connected to it. For a few hours, possibly a whole afternoon, it appears like Rome might genuinely transform. The Senate assembles. They commence debating. Some desire to restore the Republic, eliminate emperors entirely, return to the old methods. For the first time in generations, there's genuine discussion about what Rome should be. And then the Praetorian Guard renders a decision. While the Senate is discussing, the Guard is plundering the palace. They're traversing rooms, seizing jewelry, coins, anything valuable. One of them hears something behind a curtain. He extracts it back and discovers a man concealing there, trembling, middle-aged, with a stutter and a limp. Claudius, Caligula's uncle. The family embarrassment. Everyone considered he was innocuous, probably brain-damaged from childhood sickness. The guard examines him, and he doesn't observe an innocuous fool. He observes a new emperor. The Praetorians transport Claudius on their shoulders to their camp. They proclaim him emperor. And while the Senate is still debating the future of the Republic, the army has already determined. The system persisted. Here's what haunts me about this narrative. Caligula governed for less than 4 years. For years. In the scope of Roman history, that's nothing. A blip, a footnote. And yet, 2,000 years subsequently, we're still discussing him. Why? Because Caligula demonstrated something frightening about power. He displayed that the entire machinery of a state, its laws, its military, its economy, its bureaucracy, can be transformed into instruments of personal psychological combat. He didn't function outside the system. He rendered the system his weapon. The ledgers in the Imperial palace, that's bureaucracy accomplishing its function. The compulsory mourning for Drusilla, that's law enforcement accomplishing its function. The banquets where he violated senator spouses, that's imperial hospitality accomplishing its function. Every atrocity he committed was technically lawful because he was the law, and when he perished, the system didn't perish with him. It simply discovered a new operator. That's the genuine horror. Not that one man was a monster, but that the apparatus he constructed kept operating without him. Examine what arrived after. Nero burning Rome and blaming Christians. Domitian executing individuals for examining him incorrectly. Commodus compelling senators to observe him fight as a gladiator in the arena. Elagabalus accomplishing things so unsettling I literally cannot portray them on this platform. The design remained. The apparatus kept evolving. Because Caligula exposed a truth about power that Rome could never unlearn. When one individual controls everything, the military, the law, the economy, the culture, there's no mechanism to halt them. No checks, no balances, nothing but waiting for them to perish or be eliminated. And even then, the system simply discovers someone new. Suetonius recorded that Caligula was the superior of servants and the inferior of masters. He discovered tyranny by pretending to be the perfect subject. He analyzed under Tiberius, observed how a monster operates, discovered every technique, every psychological tool, and then he perfected it. That's the warning, the genuine lesson. The greatest threats don't announce themselves. They discover, they adapt, they wear the mask of loyalty until they don't require it anymore. There's one more thing. After Claudius transformed emperor, he had most of Caligula's records obliterated. The ledgers, the correspondence, the documents incinerated. The official histories we possess are recorded by men like Suetonius and Tacitus, recording decades subsequently, functioning from memories and rumors and surviving fragments. Which signifies what I just communicated to you, the 5 acts, the systematic terror, the apparatus, that's simply what survived the purge. Envision what we lost. Envision what was so unsettling that even in an empire that crucified thousands and fed individuals to lions, they determined it required to be erased from history. Caligula governed for 3 years, 9 months, and 8 days. In that time, he constructed an apparatus that displayed every future tyrant precisely how to shatter human beings. Systematically, psychologically, completely. And the design never vanished. Still out there. Which leaves us with one final question. Would we recognize the apparatus if we observed it being constructed today?